Okay, so now that we've rendered and saved all these different channels, I've opened up these channels in Photoshop. You can find these channels on Blackboard. I have my regular render, the alpha channel, the material ID, and the raw shadow. Now you're going to see how I'm going to start to combine all these to start to edit my image. Right? So I want to first apply the material ID. I want to put it into the exact same file and in the exact same location as my final rendering. So I'm going to right click, go to the material ID, right click on layers, go to duplicate layer. I want to make sure that it makes a copy of it, but I want to make sure that it goes into my renderer, my original rendering. So I set that as the destination, hit OK. So now when I go back to my original rendering, if I look at my layers, I have both the channel and the original rendering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the material ID. Say for example I wanted to tweak some of the purple colors in here. One way to do this obviously is to come in here with the magnetic lasso tool and come around here and like make a selection, but you know, to do this with some kind of accuracy would just take way too long. So what I'm going to do is, this is where this material ID is going to come in really handy. So for example, I'm going to go to select, color range, I'm going to click on the green one, and this is also where you want to make sure that when you set up these material IDs, you have extreme colors. Because if I were to have picked shades of green, sometimes they're so close in color that when you go through your selection, it'll select multiple shades of green. Here you can adjust the slider. You know, if you're somewhere in the middle, you should be in good shape. You hit OK, and you can see that it only selected those colors that have that specific shade of green. I'm going to turn off that material ID, and in my layers, I'm going to make sure I'm on the correct layer. So I want to make sure I'm on layer 0. And say for example, I'm going to add a brightness contrast. So if I do a brightness contrast, I'll do something extreme, just so you can see that it's only adjusting that one specific selection. So hopefully you can start to see how making those selections beforehand can start to come in handy. I'll do that one more time. Make sure I'm on the correct layer. Select color range. This time I'll do red. Hit OK. Turn that off. Go back to my original layer with the rendering. This time I'll do vibrance. And as I start to adjust the tone of the vibrance, you can start to see how it's adjusting just that one specific color that has that one specific material ID associated to it. So I can tweak that color however I want. Right, and obviously I can always go back and do the blue one and adjust it. But now you can start to see how originally setting up that material to have a specific material ID, so when it renders, you can very quickly add that adjustment to it. Right. So now we're going to edit the shadow, the raw shadow. So again, I want to do the same thing. Make sure that this raw shadow is in my original rendering. So again, it's just one of the layers in here. And I'm just going to move my layers around, just move and drag. So there's the shadow. Obviously, the only thing that I want is just the white. So when you do the raw shadow, it only gives you the black and the white, where your light is coming from and the shadow that's being created. So again, I'm going to use select color range, select the black, for example. The fuzziness, I want to make sure that it's only just the black. So again, on this one, you can start to see as you start to move your slider from, you know, say for example, from 100 all the way to 200, it starts to remove more and more of the actual pixels. So I'm going to remove the maximum for now, all 200, slide it over to 200, hit OK. Make sure you're on the correct layer and just delete. Just hit delete on your keyboard to delete all those pixels. The shortcut to deselect this thing, I can go to select, deselect, or my shortcut is the Command D. So I can deselect that. Now I have that shadow line just by itself. Right, so I'm going to drag that so it goes underneath my rendering. So the only thing I have going on with my rendering right now is I still have the white background. So say, for example, if I were to place an image in here, it's not really going to show. The only part of the image that's going to show is whatever right back here in the checkered part. So again, this is where I'm going to use this one last time. Now what I want to do is I want to go to select color range, hit the black, and turn that off. Go to my rendering, hit delete, Control D, and I've deleted, let me turn off my shadow. I've now deleted the white, that original background, but I needed it at the beginning because I needed something to capture my shadow. But now that I've captured my shadow, extracted my shadow, I can now use this separately. Right. So now all I need is to put in some background. I already downloaded an image just so I can have it as reference. I'm just going to scale this thing. Obviously with yours you're not going to be downloading an image, it's going to be site specific, so you're going to make sure you want to have an image of wherever your project is going. I'm going to move this around. There's that. I have that. So now the only thing you'll probably notice is my shadow is a little strange. It's a little bright, right? But again, if I select my shadow, it's because it's being displayed as its normal color. So if I go down here, I can see like what dissolve does. I can see what darken does. If I hit multiply, now I'm actually getting, what it's doing is it's reading the image below it and the shadow line above it, right? So now I'm actually getting the image to look a little bit better, right? I actually have the rendering, I have the shadow line. It's actually projecting the correct shadow onto the grass or wherever you're going to have it. There's a couple in here that you can choose from. Some of them will work, some of them won't. Overlay sometimes does a nice job, but the color settings are off. So I'm just going to stick with multiply. You can adjust the other ones and see what they do. I'm going to slightly tweak the background image. Going to adjustments, levels. The overall color for this is a little too bright. So what I can do is I could always come back to this, and a fast way of selecting everything is I can just go select color range. I can select the black, hit OK. So right now it's selected everything but the actual rendering. But I can always go select inverse, and I'm going to get rid of this top selection. So I'm going to go to my selection tool. I'm going to hold down, at least on a Mac, and hold down the Alt key. I see the little minus sign, and if I make a selection around this entire thing, it subtracts from it. Make sure you're on the correct layer. And I'll just do like a brightness contrast and adjust the color tone of this, just so that it's not so bright sitting in this field. So that's how you start to begin to use your other channels. The only one we didn't use again was Alpha Channel, but now you can hopefully see where setting up the material ID can come in really handy. Saving the raw shadow, just so you have a few more options when you bring this into Photoshop. You can start to tweak it however you like.